Welcome back. Time for another build. So this time the Master Grade Shin Musha Black Robe. And really, it's like, who could see this box art and just not want to do this one? And it really is as simple as that. It just looks cool. So do the usual here, unbox it, time-lapse it out, show it off, and then I'll come back at the end and talk about it. Let's get it out of the box and get into it. All right, get this thing out of the box. So our decals and probably Master Grade should be some sticker and probably some wet slide. We'll see. Ooh, nice pretty red. Looks like part of our weapons here. More weaponry. And our caution that the sword, spear, and blade have sharp edges. It's more pretty red. This looks like probably part of the display. We got some molded parts here. Blacks and grays. A couple of screws. Our base. Because this one is cool, comes with its own display setup. Okay, we have a sheet of stickers. I'm guessing this is the backdrop for the display. And then, of course, our instructions. And of course, Master Grade typically tells you what ones you need for each section. Looks like the molded might have been the leg or knee there. I don't know. I guess we'll find out on that one. Ooh, nice pretty box art. Here's the display stand assembly and how it kind of lays out, and a whole lot more decal layout. Okay. So we're talking like 27, 28 pages. It's interesting because this imagery is not the black robe. I didn't even notice, but yeah, interesting. But this is, maybe that's why this is included. This is the black robe specific decals. Okay, that makes sense. All right, well, let's get to it. Let's take a look at it. Lots to talk about on this one, and I took some notes just so I make sure I hit everything. So if you see me kind of glancing over the side here, you know what's going on there. This one actually kind of fought back, ended up dropping my nippers, broke the tip off. So that's kind of a pain. Time for some new nippers. Build time on this one came in at 7 hours for me, and I didn't do hardly any of the decals. I'll talk about the decals here in a little bit, but just know that that 7 hours build time is really mostly model. There wasn't a whole lot involved with the decals. There's some part reuse across the kits. You know they do it, but this one's just funny because it's so obvious. You know, you look here, there's a couple of runners that are obviously from RX-78-2. And you only use a little bit of parts off of those. The rest of them, you use most of the parts off the runners, but it's just kind of funny to see it, you know, so obvious that that's what's going on. The instructions here are kind of hit and miss. But first off, the instructions are for the Shin Musha, not the Black Robe, which it's just a coloring difference, but it's kind of funny as you flip through. It's like the imagery is all the Shin Musha, not Black Robe. There's a separate sheet that's the Black Robe that shows you where to put the, I think they're spider lily stickers to get that look, but otherwise it's just regular Shin Musha. It did have this cool thing where each step, it lists the parts across the top you need. So that's kind of nice. It's like I like to work ahead like a whole section or a whole page. So being able to just kind of scan across the top is nice. I wish more instructions did that. Kind of the downside, it's kind of a combination of the kit and the instructions. There are a lot of small parts in here that look very similar, but aren't. It's like they're just slightly different. And the instructions themselves, like the imagery and the instructions, aren't quite clear enough to be able to just look at everything and be like, oh, this is the part. So I ended up a couple different times. I had to flip back to like the runner list and be like, oh, okay, that's this part. Let me use that part. It actually slowed me down because I stopped cutting so far ahead just because having to flip around and figure it out was becoming frustrating. And so I just kind of stopped that big cut ahead I usually do. The decals on this one are a combination of sticker style and drive transfers. Probably in the unbox I said wet slides because I expect that in a master grade, but don't have them here. I am not a fan of drive transfer, but I probably did more drive transfer than anything else because the sticker styles are, there were a lot of white that go on the gray, so they just completely disappear. You can't even see them. And then there's some that go on the red, but the red is so shiny and the stickers end up kind of being a flat, right? That they don't look good together to me. So I did a lot of the dry transfer, and then I did enough of the sticker style to be like, don't like it, and just moved on with it, right? The spider lilies are like 4 big stickers per appendage, right? There's 2 on the side, 2 on the front, and the ones on the side kind of overlap to kind of make it look like one big thing. But that's how those work. The legs on this guy are an inner frame setup, but the most complicated thing I think I have put together in the Gundam world so far. They are huge. I got a picture here. There are so many gates attaching these things to the runners. It's crazy. It takes forever just to get them out. And then it's like there's a lot of twisting and turning and popping parts off and doing things. And then the pieces themselves that build the leg are complicated as well. So just kind of makes for overall a really trying kind of spot to build. The hands are a bit of a pain. The fingers, it's the 3-finger, 1-finger thumb kind of articulation, but they don't fit into the bottom part very well. So I ended up like laying it on the desk, putting the fingers in and then sandwiching it together, because if you try to pick it up and do it, I was losing, like the thumb would fall out, the finger would fall out and all that kind of stuff. So that's how that worked. The waist is also a pain. The waist has, I was talking about, you know, the parts that look similar but aren't quite, that's the waist. And so I had to deal with that. But then also the waist has, those parts are like very specific on how they go together. And I mean, I'm talking beyond the normal like Gundam tolerances. I mean, these like if you don't have them exactly right, they don't go together. And so it's one of those like I fiddle with it, fiddle with it, fiddle with it, and then I get it just right, and everything just slides together. But yeah, I mean, it just took just the right kind of lineup to get that. I love the metallic red. Looks awesome, but typical of any kind of plated part, right? You really kind of get one chance to get it out of the runner, and there's no cleanup because all you do is just rub off the plating, right? The display is awesome. I love it. I think I did the unicorn with a cage. Was probably the one I've done before this one with the best display. This tops that by a long shot. The only thing I would call out with the display is nothing is attached. And so you're hard plastic on hard plastic. So, I mean, just a little bit of bump and everything just slides all over the place on this. So I am probably going to get some double-sided sticky tape or museum wax, something like that, so that I can stick some of this stuff down just so I can move it without everything just falling off of it. So, of course, the question always is, you come to me and say, hey, I ran across this. What should I do? I'm going to say grab it because it is an awesome build and it looks amazing. I love the display. Everything about it is just really cool looking. I wouldn't recommend doing it if this is like your first or second big build. I think some experience in a master grade, perfect braid level kind of builds would make a difference between this being a complicated build and this being a frustrating build. I think if you were trying to take this on as like your first or second big build, you would just be frustrated with the process. But that's Black Robe. It looks really cool. I'm excited to display this one. So as always, keep the comments, the suggestions, the feedback coming. I love it, especially the suggestions. I've got a few coming up that reviewer suggestions that I'll be doing, and that's fun. I like those. And thanks for watching.